on this computer. Great.
Oh.
So welcome to day 3 of EPIQ. Yeah, no, we just discussed this. Day 4 of EPIQ. Jeez, must be day 4. Okay. Today we have 4 topics. One is we are going to start the morning by looking at calculations that you can do on a particular column, and that's going to be led by the illustrious Amanda Rodda. We're then going to move to scatter plots and correlations, funny words like R and R squared, which statistics named very badly. And then we will move to multi-charts, colors, and options, which is separating charts out in funny ways. And then finally, and I'll do those 2. And then finally, we're going to move to box plots, violin plots, and understanding dispersion.
Andy?
Yes.
I didn't quite understand that last lesson very well when I went through it. Could you or William do my second session today?
Sure. No problem.
It was stuff I've never done before, and I can read what's written, but I can't answer any other questions about it.
No problem. Then
Cool.
yes, one of us will tackle that one. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Thanks.
Okay. So, but as a first step, why don't we hand it to Amanda and she will talk about column calculations.
Yeah, this one I understood.
There we go. It's all new stuff. It's pretty complicated.
Well, I have never worked with violin graphs or dispersion, so I was just like, I don't, nope, can't do that one for you.
No problem.
It happens. Look, I get to learn something new today. Yay.
No problem at all.
All right, so we are going to play with something as soon as my computer lets me have a screen. There we go. Column calculations. This was actually, I don't know, it's not, if you understood the filtering yesterday, this is, it's almost the same kind of actions and pretty similar to messing with like the filtering we did yesterday. So I need to get Zoom to get things out of my way. There we go. All right. I am going to use the online IDE again, just because less likely for my computer to die in the middle of talking to you, if that's all right with everyone. I think everybody's been able to toggle back and forth pretty easily. This lesson has a couple of different files that you can download. That's the first step if you're going to use the Quorum Studio. Okay, so first thing we're going to play with is calculating in columns. So hop over to that. And for calculating with columns, we can add a new column to the data, right? That will then hold the calculation. That makes pretty good sense. And that is just add column. So we have, let's see, okay. The actual data set is this random.csv. So we've got an ID column, an A, a B, and a C column. If we wanted to do any kind of, I'm just going to go down to the IDE. Any kind of computation with that. Obviously, we're going to need our data frame library, and we're going to need another one that is, do we actually need that one, or is that an extra? I think that might be an extra one. First, let's make our 2 data frames. We'll have a frame and a copy, just like we did yesterday when we were filtering the data, right? Does that make sense to everybody? So we can have both versions, the original and then whatever we play with. And we're going to say to load frame into copy as copy equals frame colon, capital C copy, and then open close parentheses. Right? Those are the exact same first steps as yesterday with filtering our data. Everybody, oh, sorry, also load your file. Everybody understands those steps, I hope. Cool. Now, our example just wants to add our 3 columns that were in the data set, A, B, and C. So frame colon, add column with capital A, capital C, open parenthesis. And this actually takes 2 parameters. So it's going to name our new column, and this is just new in this case. So quotation mark, new, quotation mark. You can name it whatever you want. I don't really like new. I'm going to name it total. That makes more sense, right? And then a comma to split our parameters. And then in quotation marks, just like when we were filtering if it was greater than or less than a number yesterday, it's the name of each column, and they were given the very original names of A, B, and C. And then we've added them together with plus signs. Is that all pretty self-explanatory when you actually look at it, I think? And then we're going to output the original frame with copy colon to text and output modified frame with then frame to text, because we did the adding on our frame, not our copy. I'm going to run, and I have original frame and all kinds of, it's a very long file actually. And then I have modified frame, and I have ID, A, B, C, and total. And if I look at just row 1, I have 1, 0, 45.1. Oh, sorry, 1.0. That's the ID. 45.1. Yep, it's going to be that kind of morning. I'm going to stop and repeat that statement. If I'm reading this row, it is row 1. The next column is 45.0, then 3.0, then 9.0. And now I have a new column that says 57.0. If we do the math, 45 plus 3 plus 9 is 57. So that's just adding all 3 of them. Okay, so we have proof that adding them all up works. I'm going to go just back up to my code where we have frame add column. And instead of adding A, B, and C, I'm going to say A minus C, just because that should be a fairly drastic difference. Okay, I'm going to run just because I want proof that subtraction works as well. There's my original. And now that row 1 says 1, 45, 3, 9, and 36. 45 minus 9 is 36. Does that idea make sense to everybody? I don't know if Derek's trying to read his screen or if he's confused in some fashion. Make it larger, man, so you can see it. And now, because I'm thinking like a student, I am going to do and try to make like a negative number pop up, right? So I'm going to say B minus C. Whoops, not X. X doesn't exist. B minus C. And I'm just changing my code right in there in the add column command, right? And let's see what happens. scroll down my original frame. Hey, look at that. Row 1. Again, it's at 1, 45, 3, and 9. And I said B minus C. So 3 minus 9, I got -6. So yeah, it'll give you your -2, right? I got a whole bunch of negatives when I put that in, just scrolling through the data here. So that hopefully makes sense to everybody. Put into Slack.
Is there another way to, I mean, never mind.
No, ask the question.
Well, I answered the question in my brain because I was like, is there a way to pull this data out in a different way? So like, I mean, we're just outputting that to text, but I mean, I would assume that you would use this within something else to do some other computation. So that's,
Oh yeah, you can totally
Yeah.
then use that new column and make it its own chart or
yeah, I mean, like
whatever else you would want to do with that data once you've
yeah, but I
manipulated
mean, like
it.
what I'm trying to say is like with the bar graphs and the pie charts and all that stuff, the output is an actual graph. But
Mhm.
this is just plopping numbers down here at the bottom of the program, and I was wondering if there was a way that the output could be, I don't know, moved to a CSV file or be outputted in a different window or something like that instead of just being down there. But I don't think there's a purpose in that, so that's why I didn't. Yeah, never mind. Just keep going.
You can write your output to files. So you
Yeah.
could, instead of it going to the console, write it to a file, which would then be just by its own nature a CSV file.
Yeah, I'd like to at some point know how to do that. Not right now, but I'd like to know how to do that.
There is a tutorial on it.
Okay.
It's a pretty old one, but there's tutorials on it for writing to file. Yeah, again, what would you do with this, right? You can save it to a file. You can use it to create columns to then present as a graph. This is literally random data. That's actually what the file was called, was random. So it's completely useless. This in and of itself has no context. But the next example, where we're going to be doing some other things with the columns, is data that has a little more context to it. But we all get the adding a column, making it do things for us. Excellent. Hearing no objections. Column splitting. I like this one. This one made me very happy to learn how to do. So thought I was going to sneeze. Okay. So for column splitting, the example here of this first set of data has one column, and it's called ice cream, and it says vanilla $5, chocolate $5.50, strawberry $5.50. I'm not sure how to pronounce this word. Ube, UBE. Anybody who knows, let me know. I don't even know what that is. All right, but it's $6. Whatever it is, it's expensive ice cream. So if we're thinking of being able to manipulate our data in any way, having the name of the ice cream and the price all in one column is not like you can't manipulate that data, right? So we can make it tidy data by splitting that column into ice cream and price. And that is what we're going to look at. Do we have that ice cream column or is that just the example? That's just the example. Okay, cool. The example we're going to use is in the column tutorial, column splitting tutorial, and it's using league.csv, which is about video game stats. Okay, so how do we split our columns? Here's a little bit of an example here. So we have a player column, a tier. I don't know what LP means. It's fine. Level, win ratio, and then kills / deaths / assists. So those are the different columns of this league.csv file. The column we're going to split is the win ratio column. That's the first one we're going to split. So to do this, again, we need our data frame and to load it. And then we're going to do something a little more. We're going to make an array, which an array is just like a table. Okay. And to make this object of an array, you literally type capital A, RRAY, and we're going to name it headers. So space headers. And if you're using Quorum Studio, the little yellow box will show up. Alt Enter will give you the library. If not, the library is libraries.containers.array. Okay. Now, we're going to add 2 names to this array so that when we go to split our column, it uses the array to hold the names. Does that make sense to everybody? I don't think everyone has done arrays before, so I don't want to like gloss over that idea and make it magic. Just want to make sure everybody understands it. So to add to an array, you use the name of the object. So headers, colon, add with a capital A. In our parenthesis set, we're going to have quotation mark wins, quotation mark parenthesis. And we're going to do that again, and we're going to have losses. Does that make sense?
No, losses isn't anywhere else. We're making that so the array has some place to stick the stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Because when we go tell it to split this column, it needs those 2 titles because we're asking it to make one column into 2 things.
Right. And it needs a place to stick that. Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Because it eats the old column and makes it these 2. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. And I played with it. I've added 3 and 4 arrays when I only needed 2, and it just doesn't work. Or I only added 1 when I needed 2, and it just doesn't work. So it does pay attention to that information. Okay. So that's a little bit of an extra step for this one, is that the array headers. We're going to add our selected column that we want to split. And that was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because we started at 0. I just counted over. So I'm just going to go down into here. Frame, colon, add selected column. We've done that before, I think. We did factor before. So now we're doing add selected column. There we go. Parenthesis, the number 4, close parenthesis. Because that's the indice of the column we want, right? Now we are making a new data frame with our change here. So it's kind of like having made copy, right? In this example, we're calling it result. You could name it whatever you want. So data frame result equals frame colon And our action is pretty intuitive. Split selected columns, open parenthesis. We're going to put in the word headers here because that's the name of our array. So it's going to pull the array to name our new columns. Does that make sense to everybody? And then a comma. And then in quotation marks, we're going to put the hyphen or the subtraction sign, whichever way you want to think of it. Because with the way our data is formatted, we're telling it up to that subtraction sign is one column. After that subtraction sign is my second column, because our data is formatted. I'm just looking at row 1 here. I rolled up 156 dash 112 dash hyphen subtraction, whatever you want to call that guy. Does that make sense? We're telling it where do you split that at that subtraction sign. And then we have our two outputs. We have our original frame, which is framed text. And then we have output split column frame. You can name that whatever you want, right? I just say changes. And then output result to text. And it should now have more columns in the second time, right? Let's check it out here. First one for the original frame. Yep, there I have win ratio kind of in the middle of my set of columns. It's a fairly long line. Oh, I'm sorry. It only will have that one column. Right. So split column or column split frame of wins losses gives me just wins and losses. I misread my own code. That's because result was only the split frame. Right? It was only the split selected columns. So that's why it's only giving me those two columns, and it's win, comma, losses. Does that make sense? And then the way I kind of played with it earlier, I wanted to see if it would split a column into 3 parts because I wasn't sure. So I added under headers add, I added another one. Add, and I'm just going to call it junk for now because I don't really care about that. I'm just giving it a third name. And I'm going to select column 5 because column 5 was that kills, deaths, assists column, right? And yeah, it's going to call them wins, losses, junk. I could change it to kills, deaths, assists. I'm lazy. I don't want to type that much. Does that make sense what I'm doing? And my kills, deaths, assists column is separated with a /. So on my line that says data frame result equals frame colon split selected columns, I'm going to change that. Maybe I'm going to, oh, I wasn't down in the edit text. I was on the regular screen. I'm going to change that hyphen to a /. And now my expectation is that result when it prints to text is going to give me 3 columns. That is, if we have done everything right, I expect to get 3 columns. And I scroll down to it, and I do. Wins, losses, junk. Every single person in this data set has the exact same information. It's just great, but whatever. I know it worked. I have 4, 33, 11 for every single row. And I did that just to show that again, what is it doing? It's splitting your columns where there is that slash in the original data. Does that make
So
sense?
you wouldn't, if you wanted to keep the wins losses as they were, would you add a secondary add split column and then the slash? So like you'd keep it as it was with the hyphen, but then you would repeat the line of code, but with the slash.
I'm saying that slowly because we have to do that twice.
Yeah, because I'm wondering because you added junk.
So I'm taking away junk. I'm changing my code back to just the wins losses. Okay.
Okay.
So it's column 4 and it's the minus. Okay.
Okay.
Now my gut is telling me I need a second array.
Okay.
I'm going to say array text.
Oh wait, that was all within column 4. You including junk was also within column 4. Okay. I was thinking.
I changed that to column 5.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I changed that to column 5 to get that one column over where it was kills, deaths, and assists. So
I thought you added another column. I thought there was 4 and another one.
I'm sorry. No.
Okay.
So let's see. How does this work? Add 1 add.
So I guess basically what I'm asking is, can you split 2 columns at the same time?
That is what I'm looking at right now. We're learning, and somebody's going to hop in and tell me I've done it wrong at some point, but they're going to let me play first because they know I like to do that. All right, so I've made a new array that is just called headers 1, just so I have a different name, right? We can't name things the same, or it doesn't know which one you want. And so I don't know how to now combine these 2 columns into one data frame. If I do after that split, so now I'm adding after data frame result equals frame colon split. I'm doing frame colon add selected column. Oops, I spell column correctly. In column 5. I could make it a new one.
I was gonna say, wouldn't you?
Data
Yeah.
frame result 2. Whoops. Equals. We're gonna cheat here. Copy this bit because it's a lot to type. I'll say headers 1. I'm gonna say a slash.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Does that work?
We're gonna see here. I gotta add new output. I'm taking out the original frame because I don't care, right? We know that goes there. It's fine. Outputs. Take 2. All right. Output result 2 colon to text. All right, let's see what happens. Ready, go. Ah, ha, ha, something's wrong. Because it just says build successful. Okay, smarter than me, people.
I refuse.
You refuse? Okay. So our question is, how do we split both of those crazy columns? And can we do it all in one swoop?
Sometimes when you're programming, you have to ask a different question. Why are you trying to do this? Like, what's the goal?
To see if we can.
Yeah, at this point, it's to see if we can, because I don't care about this particular data, but I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, why don't we move on for now? I mean, like, there's
Okay.
probably there, I don't know we could sit and debug it as a group, but that's probably not the most useful thing to do. But I will say that all these functions like splitting and stuff like that, essentially they're all a little bit limited right now is the point. And the reason they're limited is because we did some analysis of through a statistical consultant that helped us kind of figure out what we wanted to do. Derek knows Amelia, who's amazing. She gave us some ideas from other programming languages about which things we should allow and which things we shouldn't. And what we came up with was that if you look at a programming language like R, they offer you like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of combinations of factors inside of these things. And as far as we could tell, most of them weren't actually that useful. I mean, we could be wrong, but like you'd look at one function for splitting and there would be like 25 or 30 parameters about like different combinations of things that you could have. And it all seemed too complex. So we might have erred too much on the over or simple so far, but I think that we will learn that as we go, because we'll have people mail us and say, hey, I wish it could do this thing too. And so my hunch is to build up the complexity based on actual user feedback, as opposed to just kind of guessing all the possible permutations in the universe that might be useful. Maybe that's a bad idea on my part, but my point is just that like we kind of went a little bit over simple in the first version, but we'll see how that shakes out. So,
But that's actually good to know, is to err on the side of simple.
that's kind of what we were thinking too,
Yeah.
especially since we know kids are going to be touching this stuff. Like you can make these split combinations really complicated very easily. Regular expressions. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do, but we kind of decided against it for now. So like right now it splits, but that's about it. So anyway, sorry, Amanda, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just following Leslie's line of questioning to
Yep.
see what would happen, because I don't know the answer.
You know what, we shouldn't have a bunny as the logo, because we go
Mhm.
on bunny trails.
No, I mean, and honestly, I mean, that's what I do in class. A kid has a question I don't know the answer to. Well, let's find out if it works. It didn't work. We'll have
Okay.
to find a
The
different
answer
way
is
to do that.
no.
The answer is our first guess did not work. All right. Column splitting with inheritance. What is inheritance? Besides the money I got when Grandpa died. What? It's true. All $400. Tim, if you're talking, you're muted. No, he stopped talking. Okay. None of you know what inheritance is.
I'll just
No.
say this.
Oh,
This
boy.
particular thing, the column splitting with inheritance, is an advanced topic. And this is what you would want to use if you want to do really complicated split stuff with your data sets. If you don't need that capability, then inheritance is kind of an academic concept that, you know, it's good to know about in programming, but isn't necessarily super crucial. But we put this in the tutorials so that if you are like a super power user and you've got some really complicated set of stuff that you need to split in some crazy data set that you've got with 1 billion rows, who knows, whatever, then this is how you could do it. But for our purposes, you know, more than likely kids aren't going to be doing this particular piece. But yeah, it's an option if you need it, and that's why that's in the documentation, but most people probably won't, is what I would guess.
Also, I just see a weird library here. Is this a typo? It says array I.
Typo.
Okay. Whoever's writing down your typos.
I'll mark it in our Slack.
Well, and I was going to say in the example above, there's a difference between the example and the actual program. After array, it has the less than, text greater than, but in the example above it, it doesn't.
You're right. That's a typo as well. That array is
Oh.
not created correctly.
Yeah, I bet I know what that is. It's because in HTML, those are special characters and you have to code them differently. I bet something
Yep.
like that. It's all right.
I was wondering why it looked funny. Thanks, Derek. Yeah, so when, let's back up and explain that for the not in your brain while you were talking, Derek, kind of
Sorry.
people. No, you're fine. I understood what you meant, but if you've never used arrays in Quorum, so in Quorum, when you're making an array, you use the word array, and then it's the less than sign and the type of what the array is going to hold. So in our example here, it's array less than text greater than space headers, because it was holding text variables. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And arrays can hold just about anything.
So you could exchange text for integers or number.
Yes.
Okay.
And where in this case, it was, our headers, they're text, right? But if you were making an array that was then going to be used as a column or something like that, or, as the data in a column, and it was integers or numbers, you're good. Arrays can also hold images. There's a couple different names for images when you load them up. It can also hold sounds. They can hold anything. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Derek. So inheritance is when a class, and I describe classes to students as your project is a folder, classes are separate pieces of paper in that folder that you can flip to and use. Does that kind of make sense?
It's a good description.
So inheritance is when one of those classes says, yeah, go use this one over here.
Oh, it's a redirect.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it says this class can use everything that's also part of that class over there. And it's linking those classes, saying you can use everything involved in the other one, as well as whatever we add here. Does that idea make sense?
Yeah.
So in the class we have built in this example for inheritance, we have a literal column splitter is column splitter. So if we look in the documentation, column splitter is a class that already exists. And that's what allows you to do the, split selected columns action, right? So we're writing a class that uses the column splitter class. We have a text variable named delimiter, which is undefined.
Mm-hmm. Jaws pronounces it delimeter. I had to look at it in Braille. I was like, what?
It's amazing. Yes, it's in the deli. It's what, weighs the meat. And so in this, it's showing us that in this class that we're writing, we can make our own actions. You can split a value to return an array. And this is where you could this is where instead of having our wins and losses come out in the columns, we can make them save to their own array and use them elsewhere. That's what this idea of this class is that we are writing. So we have, if it's empty, it's going to give us an error. If the text isn't right, it's going to give me a different error. And then if it all works, it's going to give me an array. And then we can get that array, and we can also set that array with our own information. Does that make sense at all? And again, like Andy said, this is a little bit of a higher concept. The idea is, Leslie, you and I could sit down and write a class that would then make what we wanted to do happen. Right?
Sure.
We could basically just say, yes, this is how you combine these two things by writing it ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it uses okay. That must already be a thing that exists. Interesting. Okay. And then we have some sample code here that uses our new class that we were looking at here with delimiters. With that kills, deaths, assists column. And it's going to tell us if it has a delimiter or not. I'm just going to run the sample code. Holy cow. And the result is the kills, deaths, assists, like I did. Oh, we just told it it had it already. Yeah, okay. So it works the same way. Just another way to split the columns. Other questions about column splitting or calculations? That was the other part of this guy. Oh, and then we can look at our Ask Manager data set, and we can talk about how to modify that to make it, that is not what I wanted to do. Oh, well, I'm going to look at the raw data apparently. So that what's it called? Ask a Manager data set that, that we used yesterday. Thinking about column splitting and calculations. What in that data set might you want to manipulate to make it more of a tidy data set? Yesterday we talked about being able to filter out things like if they didn't put in an annual salary or adding zeros to the monetary compensation. We talked about those things. Is there anything we would want to split by any chance in that data set? Or anything we might want to do computation on? And I am just scrolling across the data set in GitHub because I don't have it downloaded at the moment.
Well, there were back in the money part, there was something, and then there was like additional or other. So it's
Mhm.
your annual salary and then other monetary compensation. So I mean, you might want to add those together to do like a total.
Yeah, could totally, if you wanted to see what a total compensation package looked like, to find average totals or anything like that. Yeah, exactly. Those could be added. I'm not seeing anything I would necessarily want to split. Like they've got some ranges here for like professional experience, but I'm not sure how splitting that information would help you.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm not seeing other data that I would necessarily want to combine or split, but yeah, I think the most obvious would be you could make it add those two columns, right? And then using that new data frame, you could have it find your different descriptive statistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the end of that lesson. Do we have any other questions?
No.
Do
Let's-
you
let's
need
just
more
say-
coffee?
I got the principles of this one. This is the first time where my brain got just a little stymied by the coding. I was really struggling to understand what was happening. It's only a few lines of code. It does incredible things. So I'm just going to classify it. It's doing magic. And a lot of people have put a lot of time in to create this. I know that I can use what I'm learning today. To me, it's not important. I understand how it works. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to dig down really deep, but I've done that before, and it goes over my head simply because I don't want to focus that long. But you did a great job of teaching and modeling today, and I love the explorations that you did. So there's a little feedback for you today personally.
Thanks, Tim.
So you're not cursing my name for asking questions, Tim?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I love about Quorum is how to ask questions, and the trainer, the teacher, does not have to have answers. I'm surprised somebody just didn't say, "Hey, why don't you guys take 15 minutes and see if you can split those three things out, and then come back later."
I thought
would be the
about
only
it,
practical
but
thing I might have done differently. But we're kind of in a we've got some fairly advanced users with us, as well as some of us that are more beginners. So it's wonderful.
I thought about, okay, now go make the kills deaths assist, but okay, cool. We have a couple minutes for break, I think, and then
Yep, let's come back maybe at 9, and then we're going to build up. We're going to start talking about how we use some of these charts to sort of think about data. And so we'll get to that in a bit. So see you in 5. And for William, don't forget to stop the recording.